If you recently just purchased a Typhoon H, or you're thinking of buying the Typhoon H, well then this video is for you, because this is going to show you the setup and your first flight. Everything you need to know. Stay tuned. Now you probably bought the Typhoon H because it's one of the coolest drones around with 6 props. There's really nothing else on the market that compares in price and features. But it is a pretty big drone, as you'll see, and it could be kind of intimidating for beginners. I see on forums an awful lot that people are kind of worried about how it flies and a few other things, but this drone is actually, it's a baby. Honestly, it's a sheep in wolf's clothing. And just to show you size of this drone, here's the Typhoon H, and here's a Phantom 4 Pro. So if I put them together, you can see the Typhoon H stands much taller. And over here we have a little Mavic Pro, very small. So if I raise the camera up, you can see them, their footprints. And the Typhoon H at the end. So the Typhoon H is a big drone, and as I mentioned earlier, it can be intimidating, but it's not. It's a very easy drone to fly, great for beginners, and also great for advanced users. So I'm just going to walk you through the steps, getting your drone set up and ready to fly. Now, if you recently purchased a Typhoon H or you're about to order one, please consider buying the following 3 accessories. First would be spare props. You've got spare props A, spare props B. That's because 3 turn one way and 3 turn the other. And it's good to have spare props because it takes 6 props. And if you hit any object, these props are designed to shatter. So more props you have, the more fun you can have. Next, of course, for flying, you will need batteries. Now, your Typhoon may have come with 1 battery or 2 batteries, but I would suggest, if you can, eventually get 4 batteries, because flight time is going to be anywhere from 12 minutes to 18 minutes, depends on the weather and how well the batteries have been charged and how often they've been left unused. So flight times will vary, so the more batteries, the better. Finally, if your Typhoon H came with a case, you're all set. If it didn't come with a case, well then go on eBay or check your local hobby store and order a case. You can see right here, this case uses the foam that came with the Typhoon H, and it just puts it in a water resistant type case. I've had this case since May 2016 and it's been great. I got it off of eBay, it cost about $30. I'm sure you could probably still order it for around that price. Ah yes, the topic of firmware updates. Well, guess what? Every drone that has been built that is a really good drone has a computer chip in it. So the Typhoon H has a computer chip here. That's so that the Typhoon H will stay stable in the air. It's got a GPS, barometer, and a bunch of other features. Also has a computer chip in the camera so that it can do its functions of compression of the video, the pictures, whatnot, all the settings. Also has a computer chip in the ST16 controller. So each of those computer chips require an update now and then. Why do they require an update? Well, usually when a drone is built, such as the Typhoon H, this drone was built in May 2016, that's when they came to market, the manufacturer sometimes does not get everything right. So there's some bugs or whatnot. And it's usually 1 user out of 1,000 that notices what the bug is, reports it back to the manufacturer. Manufacturer then fixes it and puts out a firmware update so someone else doesn't come stumble upon that bug. So that's happened with the Typhoon H. There's been a few bugs and Unique has fixed them all in firmware updates. Same thing as Unique has tweaked items to make them much better, more refined. And they've also added many new features via the firmware updates. So if you bought your Typhoon H recently, at the end of 2016 or early 2017, my guess is your Typhoon has a lot of the firmware updates already done to it. So for that reason, I would highly suggest don't even worry yourself about firmware updates. Just go out and fly and have fun. Everything should be fine. However, if you want to be adventurous and update the camera, the Typhoon, and the ST16, well then I'm going to put a link below because I have a video step-by-step how to do firmware updates on all 3. And it's pretty easy to follow, but there's a lot of steps. So anyways, that will be in the description below. It's up to you if you want to do it. If not, get out there and fly. The first thing to do after you unpack the Typhoon H is to charge up the batteries and the ST16. So here I have the included charger. You'll see here I have a cable running, we're going nowhere. And I have a little light flashing. Now, if I put a battery in, let's see, I'll put this battery in. So this battery, I know it's pretty much requires charging. So when you put your battery in, you're going to get this sort of sound and lights. There you go. That's going to tell you it's charging. And when it's finished charging, it's going to make a different sound. And I'll show you that. This battery here is fully charged. So when your battery that requires charging is in this device, when it's fully charged, it's going to make this sound. And it's going to show you the little light green right there. Now to charge the ST16, you have your charger and you have this little USB plug that's coming out. That goes right at the bottom of your ST16. If I get it in correctly, first try, yes I did. And your ST16 will show you this sort of a display. It's going to start up, or at least it's going to attempt to start up, and then it should show you a battery. How much power is left. Any second now. There we go. So that's showing a full white battery. That means this is fully charged. If it's not fully charged, it's going to show you less than a fully white battery. And anytime it's charging and you want to see what's the status of your charge, just touch your screen and it will show you the status. While your battery and your ST16 are charging, pull your Typhoon H out. It should look like this out of the package, and the arms are all down, and just flip it upside down. Let's see if I can do this. There we go. So you should have, right here is where your SD card, it's a micro SD card, and that's where it goes. You push in and it comes out. So make sure you have one there. The actual picture, it won't look like this one. The picture will face to the rear. So, and then it just goes in the slot. You just click it in place and you're all set. Also to note, the micro SD card that comes with your Typhoon H possibly has an electronic version of the Typhoon H manual and maybe even some videos. So it's a good idea to maybe stick it in your computer, check out what's on the card before you put it in the camera. Because after you put it in the camera, as I've done here, you're going to format the card afterwards and everything will be erased. Now your Typhoon H may have come with a really cool unique lanyard. If it didn't, you can always order one online, if you actually need one. Some people like to have the ST16 hang around their neck and have both hands free, and that's what a lanyard does. So you just wrap this around your neck and these little hooks hook on to the ST16. Unique has designed these little pieces of metal. There's 4 of them right here. You'll notice that the top portion has a big hole and below the big hole is a small hole, while these little lanyard hooks hook into the big hole. So you hook one here, one here, one here, one here, and just hang the whole ST16 off your neck. Now the next thing that you would have got in your kit is the really cool, unique sunshade, which looks like this. So you flip it open, there you go, it's got the unique name on the back, and just make sure that's facing this way. And the way it works is you just put this on your ST16, and as I already mentioned, there's a big hole for the lanyard. Underneath the big hole is a small hole. So the 4 pins, 2 on each side, fit in the small holes, and that sits securely on your ST16. And that's for days where it's pretty sunny out and you need some shade so you can actually see the screen. It's pretty cool. Okay, we're almost ready to head outside for our first flight, but there's a few things we still have to do. So I have the ST16 here, the Typhoon H, and I have a battery. So what we're going to do is we're going to start up the ST16 and the Typhoon H and set a few configurations. So first things first, make sure on the Typhoon H you have the gimbal cover removed because the camera has to move freely when it starts up. Next thing, take a battery, slam it in the Typhoon H so it's nice and tight. Don't want that falling out when you're flying. Turn on the ST16. This is what you'll do out in the field as well. ST16 always goes on before the Typhoon H. Once you see the unique display on the ST16, now you can press the power button on the Typhoon H, which is right here. Hold it down. Makes that crazy sound. Make sure it stays flat on the ground so that it can adjust all its calibration and sensors. Everything has to be flat for that to happen. Now, one thing to note, we're indoors, so the Typhoon H is not going to be able to acquire GPS signals. And same as the ST16. There's going to be no GPS on either. The only thing they'll be able to do is talk to each other. So on the display, pretty soon the camera should connect to the ST16, and right here we should actually see a picture. Alright, our ST16 is connected to the Typhoon H, and we have a video transmission, so everything's working. There's a lot of information on the screen, but we really don't need to know all that for our first flight. But we do have to make one setting before we even go out and fly, very important one, and that's the return to home altitude. And that's located down here. And the reason we want to do that, I'm just going to zoom in so we can get a better view. The reason we want to set the return to home altitude is because, say we lose connection with our Typhoon H, well then the Typhoon H is going to come back to us at a predetermined altitude. And that predetermined altitude is what you're going to set right now. So you have settings and calibration, touch that option. And the third one down is home altitude, touch that one. And there you go, you have a little slider here that goes up and down. Mine is in meters, it says 20 meters to 122 meters. Yours might be in feet. So set it at an altitude that you think is fine for you. You could set it at 100 feet. I have mine at 40 meters because my trees here do not grow that high and I don't fly around buildings. So 40 meters seems to be fine for me. And to make the screen disappear, just hit your little return button right here, and that goes away. One other thing you could do before you go flying is set up your video camera. So your video camera options are right here. Make sure you have your micro SD card in the Typhoon H. You may want to, if you're finished with all the data on your micro SD card and you want to have a clean card, in other words, erase everything on the card, you would hit Format Card, which is right here. So I'll hit Format, okay. And now everything on my SD card is erased. It's clean. I can go and fill it up with lots of videos from flying. The other thing you might want to do, depending on what type of computer you have at home, is see video settings, the top one. If you select that, you'll have this whole list of video settings. That's going to be the resolution that your video is going to be taken in. The higher you go at the top to the lower at the bottom is lower resolution, higher resolution, based on how many pixels per inch on your screen. So the top ones are all 4K. So the one I use is the third one down from the top. That's because I have a fast computer and it can handle 4K. So if you have a computer at home that is not that fast, you'll know it when you put the micro SD card in your computer, go to watch your video and it's all stuttery and jittery and not smooth at all. That means your computer is not fast enough to handle the resolution you took the video in, because the Typhoon H takes very high resolution video. So in that case, what you'd want to do is uses a much lower setting, and the one I'd recommend is 1920 times 1080 f30. That means basically 1080p at 30 frames a second. So if you select that one, that's the one close to the bottom. There we go, everything's good. Hit the return button again and your screen is clear. The first one is at the top of your screen. So it says Welcome Pilot, and then it shows the time. Right beside that, it's going to show a satellite and a number right beside it. That's how many satellites the ST16 is acquiring. The ST16 needs quite a few satellites to work, like maybe 10, 11, or 12. And when you're outside, it will acquire them very fast. It needs those satellites so that it can communicate with the Typhoon H. And also, the other one that you want to take note of is to the far right. That's the battery for the ST16. So you always want to make sure you have quite a lot of battery power in the ST16, because if not, your ST16 controller will go off and then you have no control over your Typhoon H. Okay, now looking at the left-hand side of the screen, very important. Right at the top it says Model Typhoon H. Now look below that, you'll see something that says volts. That's the battery in your Typhoon H. That battery shows 4 bars right there and a voltage below it. When you fly, those bars will go down the longer you fly, or the more power you use if you're really flying fast. When it gets down to 2 bars, it's a good idea to bring the Typhoon H closer to you. So if it's 200 meters away or half a kilometer away, start bringing it home at about 2 bars. As it gets close to 1 bar, you're going to get a warning on your screen that there's low battery, and it's a good idea then to land it. So going down, we have GPS. Mine says GPS acquiring, and then it says satellite 7. Well, I'm indoors, so it can't really acquire satellites. So if I was outdoors, that number would be 10, 12, 17, just depends where I am in the world and how clear the sky is, not obstructed by trees or whatnot. So those numbers will increase when you're outside. Below that, you really don't care about positioning. That's just longitude, latitude. And then you have altitude, how high you're flying. Below that, then you have ground speed. That's how fast you're moving. Forwards, backwards, sideways, it's all there. And then you have distance. That's the most important one. This last one right here, distance, that's how far the Typhoon H is away from your ST-16. So if that number is really high, like you're half a kilometer to a kilometer, and if I use miles, you're a mile away, and your battery is really low, you might want to bring it home very close to you, because the battery is going to go low and you're going to get warnings, and you only have so much power to get back. All right, I got the Typhoon in the case down there, and we're going to head out to this field over here, which is quite open. Great place to fly your drone for the very first time. And I got my snowshoes on so I can get out there. So that circle over there is going to be the launch, and back here is where we're going to stand to take off. Okay, so I have the Typhoon over there, no props on the Typhoon, all the way back to here to our bag. And I'm going to do this pretty quick because it is minus 11 degrees Celsius outside right now. It's pretty cold. Okay, for your first flight, let's take a quick look at the controller. The top part here, all the buttons on it, that's your start and stop button. You hold that down, engines will start. And if you're flying in the air, high up in the air, and you hold it down, the engines will stop and your Typhoon will come crashing down. So that is red for a reason. So you don't touch it unless you absolutely need it. Your antenna right here, you will adjust it like this. Your clover leaf, you will adjust it so it sits up like that. Here's your landing gear. If you want to push your landing gear, retract it, you have an option. You have up and down. So when you take off, you leave it on down, and when it gets up in the air, if you want to put your landing gear up, you hit it up. If by some mistake you left it up and took off, and you flick the switch, nothing will happen. You have to flick it again until it's back in the up position. Then your landing gear will raise. Okay, now looking at the switch on the front for your first flight. First thing you're going to do is take this switch on the left. You have a choice. It goes up, middle, or down. Leave it in the middle position. This switch here goes up, middle, down. Leave it all the way up. This switch, just turn it so that it clicks right in the center. Now the switch is on the right hand side of the controller. You have this little auxiliary button. It does nothing except makes pretty little clicking sounds. Next is your object avoidance. You would think for a first flight you'd turn that on. Well, actually that's a bad idea. So you have off, middle, and on at the bottom. Leave it off. Next is your the mode that you're going to fly in, your flight mode switch. You have three settings. You have, I'll just use the letters S, A, and H at the bottom. Leave it in A. That's angle mode, so we're going to be flying in angle mode on this flight. Next, go over here. This is your D-pad, your left D-pad. If you accidentally hit this for some reason, touching it while you're flying, something's going to appear on your display. Over here you have a back button. Let's see if I find it. I'm doing this through the camera lens right there. Just hit that and the display will go away. Same as on this one. If you accidentally hit any of these buttons, this right D-pad, same thing. Something will come up on a display. Hit this button here, the back button, and it will go away. And also, if you accidentally hit this and something strange happens, just jiggle this. It causes everything to recenter itself. Finally, you have your camera, which is over here. That camera, if you want to take a picture, you just push it. Don't hold it. Next over here is your video button. That video button too, just push it. Don't hold it. All right, let's flip the controller over and take a look at the back. So on this side you have a turtle down here and a rabbit up there, and you have a switch that can go to either one or any place in between. All that means is that if you leave it on turtle and you move those joysticks, the Typhoon is going to react very, very slow to your movements. It's going to take a while to understand what you're doing. If you put it on rabbit mode, then each time you touch a joystick, your Typhoon H will instantly move in any direction you wish it to. So it's up to you, wherever you feel comfortable. Turtle or rabbit, or someplace in between. I'm going to fly mine on rabbit mode. And on the other side is for your camera. Here we have the option to put the camera up or the camera look down at the ground. So if you have it all the way to the top here, that's looking forward at the horizon. You'll see the horizon on the ground. And if you want to move the camera down, you just do that and it looks down at the ground. That's it. I always leave it up for now for takeoff. Okay, so we're almost ready for our takeoff flight. Turn the ST16 on. There we go. It takes a few seconds to initialize, I should say, and here we are. As soon as you see that little unique symbol on the screen, that's your cue that you can go and turn on the Typhoon H. So I'm going to walk over there, turn it on, power it on. Alright, so we have no props on the Typhoon H, which is a good thing, because we have to do a compass calibration. But first, before we can do that, we have to put the battery in. So, my battery is in my pocket to keep it warm. So when you put your battery in, as you've seen on many videos, slam it in there. Make sure it's in there nice and secure. And then turn on your, very important, I almost forgot, here we go. Make sure you take your gimbal off the camera, because if you start it up with that gimbal protector on, it's going to mess up your camera. So let's power it on. So our ST16 is connected to our Typhoon H way over there. Now, if this is your very first flight with the Typhoon H, you have to do a compass calibration. I use the word have to, as in you should do it. You could fly it without doing it, but if you want to be safe and keep your investments down, do a compass calibration. So I'm going to put a link below to how to do a compass calibration. Study that before you get out for the first time, and you'll know what to do, where all the settings are on the ST16. So what I'm going to do now, we'll pretend we did the compass calibration, because my compass calibration was done long ago. And you only have to do it once, unless you do something strange to your Typhoon H or a firmware update. So I'm going to go over there, put the props on, and we're going to get ready to go. Alright, you've probably tried this at home already. When you put the props on, you'll see you have some with a white circle and some with a black circle. So the black circles go on the little motors that have black, and the white circle goes on the motors, where are we, camera, that have white. And all you do is you put the prop on, push down, and turn, and they lock into place. So I'm going to put mine on right now. Alright, for this video that I'm going to do now is I have a lapel mic on so you can hear me. I'm actually using the lanyard so that I have hands free to do stuff. And I'm going to use another camera right here just to get some video of what I'm doing with my hands. So hopefully this works. Alright, we're about ready to go. So I'm going to stand over here. Alright. So here's the image coming from this camera around my neck. First thing we do, make sure all our switches are correct, just as I had mentioned. You can have a look. There we go, we're in the A mode, which is angle mode, and we have a ton of satellites ready to go. So I'm going to hit this little start button, and you'll see the Typhoon H props will start spinning, which means it's ready to take off. So now there's only 3 things you have to worry about when flying the Typhoon H. That's the takeoff, the flight, and the landing. I know that covers everything, but that's pretty much it. So let's see if I can get this. Pretty easy. I'm going to do this with one hand. This little stick on your left is your throttle response. If you push it up, Typhoon H goes up. So that's exactly what we want. We want the Typhoon H to go up in the air, so I'm going to push it right to the top. Here we go. Okay, that was an interesting takeoff. Apparently, my skids had froze to the to the base down below where I had it sitting for the last 20 minutes. That's pretty funny. So anyways, because of that, my little legs were stuck on the ground. So we're all good now. So it's up in the air. Now as you can see, it's flying up there. It's really stable. And that's what the Typhoon H does. If you want at this time to lift your landing gear, you flick this switch here. Oh, see, I had mine already in the down. So now I gotta flick it back up. And there we go, she goes up. So we're all good for that. For this flight, I'll leave it as such. You can do as you wish. Now, the next thing we're gonna do, if you notice the Typhoon H, when I put it on the ground below, sitting over on the takeoff pad, the Typhoon H on the takeoff pad, I had the back facing me. There's a reason for that. That's so that when I push this joystick here and I push it forward, it's going to go forward. So let's do that now. Forward. There she goes. Bye bye, Typhoon H. Let go of all the sticks. I'm not touching anything. And let's bring the Typhoon H back. So I'm going to push this down. Typhoon H should return to us. It's coming back. Let go of the sticks. There we go. So the Typhoon H is extremely easy to fly. So for your first flight, have it about the same height you see that I have it there. See, I'm not touching any sticks. It just sits there. What we're going to do is something called the square dance. So what we do is take this right joystick and we move it forward. Typhoon H goes forward. And now we're going to move it to the left. Oops. Typhoon H goes to the left. It's out of sight. Probably can't see it on my camera. And now we want to bring it back. So push this down. It's coming back. Let go of the joystick. It's going to stop. And now we want to push it to the right. And Typhoon goes to the right. There you go. You just completed your first square dance with the Typhoon H. So that's basically what you have to do to try. You notice I don't even have to touch the right joystick. The right joystick will just take it up higher if I want. So if I do this, I'm going to push it up. The joystick's going to go up. Or the Typhoon's going to go up. Up. So now the Typhoon's way up there. If I push this joystick down, and we look up, Typhoon H is coming down. Don't worry, it's not going to slam into the ground unless you want it to go all the way down. So it's that simple. So let's bring the Typhoon H closer to us so we can have a look at it. All I do is I hit the back button. So I'm hitting back here. There we go, I have the Typhoon H over there. Now I want to bring it in front of me. So I'm going to go to the left. Joystick. Comes and release the joystick. There we go. So now the Typhoon H is just in front of me, up above. Now we're going to play with this little stick. This one here, we've only moved it up or down. That's your throttle response. But what if we move this stick to the left or right? So I'm going to move this stick. Get in the sun here. I'm going to move this stick this way to the left. Watch what happens to the Typhoon. As I move it left, it's spinning to the left. See, it just rotates to the left. I'm going to go all the way around till the back is facing me again. Now the front's facing me. I'm holding that joystick to the left. It's going around. And there we go. And if I do it to the right, the same thing. I'll hold that there. I'll hold it up like this so you can see it. So there's the right, and there's the Typhoon H spinning to the right. There we go. It's that simple. So now, the next thing you have to do is the landing. Well, I'm out in the snow here, and normally what I do when I land is I catch my Typhoon H. So the first thing you do for a landing is, let's bring the landing gear down. Hit my switch. Keep the back of the Typhoon H facing you. So I have the back of the Typhoon H facing me. This way, if I touch any of these joysticks and I move them left, right, up, down, Typhoon H is going to respond just as I want it to. So let's move the Typhoon H to a location to land. I'll bring it over close to where I took off. So I'm going to take it, I'm going to spin it in a direction that it's heading to where I want it to go. So I've got this joystick. I'm pushing it to the right a little bit. There we go. And now with this joystick, I'm going to move it forward. There she goes. And let go of the controls. And now I'm going to land it over there. Normally I would catch Typhoon H, but since this is a beginner's video, you're just going to land it. You can land it any place. I'm going to land it in a pile of snow, and I have it away from me in case something goes wrong. But actually for this video I'll bring it close so you can see it. So I'll bring it back to me. Hit this, go backwards. There we go, we're going to land right where you see it. So to get to land, I'm just going to hit this joystick down. Come down. You see my Typhoon H is coming down, coming down, coming down, coming down. And now the Typhoon H is at waist level. I'm just going to move the Typhoon to the right so the other camera picks it up. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to get close here. You can see the Typhoon H right there. It's sitting there nicely. To land it, all I have to do is push this joystick on the left all the way down and she will land, and then hit the stop button to stop the motors. So here we go, going down. Try to do this while holding a camera and the button. So go down. Got it down, hits the ground, hit the stop red button. There we go. So we've done a takeoff, a flight, and a landing. It's that easy. That was your first flight. So I hope you enjoyed this beginner's video on the Typhoon H. Obviously get out there and fly and have fun. Don't panic, don't worry. The Typhoon H is very stable. It's very well designed craft, and it flies, as you've seen, extremely well. Till next time. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe.